Yeah, so the outlook was really, really good. Soda ash was very tight, and it was set to be tight for a number of years. Demand had recovered very well after the pandemic, so the outlook was very, very strong. Since February 24th, I think there's perhaps just a little bit of confusion in the short term. Europe is feeling a very direct impact from very, very high energy prices. So there is certainly, challenges in Europe for the soda ash producers because they have to cover these higher costs. They're nervous about getting raw materials, including coal, coke, anthracite. And also on the demand side, it's still not clear what that's going to do to European demand, how the glass producers can cope with the very, very high natural gas prices, but also, of course, going forward, demand growth globally, and how much it will be shaded down because of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The market is tight because during the pandemic, capacity was taken out. So in the US, about 450,000 tons of capacity was idled in Wyoming. Also in China, they had a very large natural soda ash plant that was scheduled to come on stream this year, about 3.2 million. That project has been delayed. At the same time, they shut down a large synthetic plant, 1.3 million, for environmental reasons. So that's the reason, and demand has come back very strongly, whereas supply, there's very little supply there. Also, a large number of projects were delayed. Some projects that were supposed to come on stream end of last year, start of this year, these projects have been pushed out. So we've ended up with a very tight market. The biggest expansions, the US. The US has almost 8 million tons of capacity planned over the coming years. So in Wyoming, so that's pretty huge. And the biggest expansions I think we've seen in decades. Also in China, there's one absolutely huge project. That project in itself, a natural soda ash plant, is 8 million metric tons a year. Few other plants in China, but China's a little bit more vague because capacity is also under risk. Outside of that, you've got a few isolated projects, and also a number of synthetic plants planned for India as well. Yeah, it means a number of different things. So first of all, the soda ash industry, in terms of its fuel source, is very reliant on coal. So I would say about 3/4 of the industry is using coal as a fuel source. So the industry was already transitioning away from coal to other fuel sources, natural gas, or other alternative energy sources where possible. So that was already something that's underway. In Europe, we also have the added cost burden of CO2 taxes. So that's already a challenge for the European producers and a cost that they have to bear. Then on the demand side, there are also implications as well. So there's new demand opportunities for solar glass, for lithium carbonate, for sodium bicarbonate, for flue gas desulfurization. But there's also a potential that there could be demand destruction. So for example, for container glass, if you use increased recycled glass, which is the target going forward, then that lowers the amount of soda ash consumption per ton of soda ash produced. So, or per ton of glass produced. So both opportunities and threats, I would say.